All right, in this tutorial, we're going to take what we've created, our existing conditions, our proposed conditions, as well as our site, and we're going to import it all into Lumion. And we're going to make sure that we keep things set up on layers, and we're going to make sure that we import them all at the same coordinates. So I always use 0, 5, 0. I'll show you how to do that here in Lumion. Okay, so this is the first screen that shows up when you start up Lumion. And what we're going to do is we're not going to, normally I would say start with a new scene or pick one of these, but lately what I've been doing is choosing load scene and models. And I'm going to choose from our Dropbox resources under templates. I've created a template, a Lumion 6 template that already has all of my layers set up the way I want them to be. So that way, this is included with those the download files. So we've got all of these files that we're using throughout this tutorial, all available on our blog post for this tutorial. So make sure you grab all those. But here you can see we have our default template. These are the layers that we use over and over. All right, so we'll just go ahead and import that, and that way we've got a really nice, clean starting point. You can see here that we've got some layers. We have imports for a site, and I've got building A and B. That's going to be, in this scenario, it's going to be our existing conditions and our proposed conditions. And then I also have entourage generic, and then I have 3D people versus 2D people. The reason I have these two different layers for different people is that oftentimes 3D people are ideal for animation, whereas 2D people are ideal for stills. So you can separate them out and kind of choose to turn them on and off. We also have interior lighting versus exterior lighting, and then we have landscape, trees, shrubs, and flowers. Flowers I've been kind of teetering back and forth. Rather than flowers, I would call it decorative. If you call it decorative, that way it's like really anything that you want. It doesn't have to be plant life. It could be flowers, it could be rocks, it could be just stuff for landscape. So those are the layers that we use over and over. So let's do this. I'm going to go to just a few tips here before we really get into it. Is if you go to your settings, that little gear in the bottom right corner, make sure that your high quality trees and grass, I like to work with them turned on, but you might want to turn them off. If your machine is dragging, you might want to turn off your high quality terrain and editor and turn off your high quality trees. I'm going to leave them on. I've got a pretty souped up machine. You might also choose to drop down your editor quality, and you might choose to drop your editor resolution. Those are some ways that you can save some computer resources and really make your machine speed up. All right, so to import what we've created in SketchUp, I'm going to go to my Objects tab, and I'm going to click on Imports, and we're going to click on Import New Model. Now, I'll go to my Dropbox under Brightman Designs. We've got our tutorials, our summer competition, and the first thing I'm going to bring in is in my components folder. That's the site, that site that we saved out. So I'll choose Open, and I do need to give mine a different name just because I've already done this tutorial once. So let me just pull that in, and I'm just going to click to place it. Doesn't matter where I place it, I just want to kind of put it somewhere. All right, now what is critical is when I go to Move Mode, down here on the bottom panel here, and then on the position, if I just mouse over it, I can go to 0 and then go to the next one and call that 5, and on the next one I'm going to call that 0. Alright, so that looks good, and then I can click on Deselect All. And let's see, so now our site is kind of positioned at 0, 5, 0, and what we could do now is go to Place Mode, and let's import another new model. So now we're going to import our existing conditions. I'll choose Open, say OK. Now this one, I'm just going to kind of drop over here, and let's start to look at what we've got here. I want to make sure that I get my layering set, because oftentimes I don't pay attention to my current layer. It's kind of a bad habit I've gotten into after working in SketchUp so long, where layer 0 is always active. So like this model here, I want to move that to Import Building A. So I just click on that layer, the number 2, and then I click on this little folder here, and it moves the selection to that layer. Now, if I were to hold, let's go Deselect All, and let me go to our Move Mode and click on this guy. All right, when I select this one, I can go to Import Site. So I'm just going to click there, and now my site is controlled by my site layer, and my Building A is controlled there. Now, if I click on this node here to select Building A, I can move that node to 0, 5, tab, backspace, and then 0. So when that's on 0, 5, 0, and then deselect, that's going to sit right where it needs to be. So it's right, right where synced up and meshed with that site. So that's why it's important to pay attention to your axes in SketchUp and make sure that when you're saving these models out and breaking them up, that you're working with the exact same origin point. All right, so this one's looking pretty good. The last thing we could do is import our proposed condition. So I'm going to turn off building A, and then I'm going to add another model. I'll go to place mode here, and then click on import new model, and we'll go to our proposed and choose open. Again, I just need to give it a different name because I've already imported it once. It's in my library. All right, so then we'll just kind of drop that one in there. And now this one, it's already selected, so I want to go to import building B, and I can move that to building B. So now this model is controlled by the building B layer. And if I go to move mode, let's see, select this guy. There it goes. And I'm going to go to 0, 5, 0, like that. So now those two buildings are literally stacked right on top of each other. So that's going to cause some issues with some screen flickering. I'm going to need to be aware of that and make sure that that layers are turned off at the right time. So for this building B, I could turn that one off. You can see here if I turn this on, see that screen flickering or that Z fighting. You see that in SketchUp a lot. You can see it happening here because you have two models that are exactly the same, kind of stacked on each other. So for now, let's just turn off. Let's see, I turned off building B. That's fine. Okay, so everything's kind of pulled in, but let's just look at let's look at our proposed, because that's kind of the fun stuff here. We'll go with turn off our existing. Okay, a couple things we need to do here. I'm going to assign some materials to our model. Well, let's see. What we need to do is we do need to assign Lumion materials, like basically swap out these SketchUp materials for Lumion materials. The other thing we need to do is assign the site model as the site. And that way we can start to paint on it. So let's just work on our SketchUp materials being swapped over to Lumion materials. To do that, it's really, really simple. All you do is you just need to activate that tool in Lumion, click on a SketchUp material, and then assign those Lumion properties. Keep in mind, though, that the name of your SketchUp material is what Lumion is reading. So once you've kind of got these set up and synced, don't go back into SketchUp and change the name of your materials. You'll break that link. So what I'm going to do here is activate our materials tool. And you can see now that as I hover around, it's kind of highlighting all of my SketchUp material that are like that. Now, they're named the same. So glass, grass, and water, those are the typical materials in Lumion. So let's go with our glass. I'm going to click on this glass, and let's just choose our glass here. And just like that, you can see that now our glass has transparency, a little bit of reflection, looks the way we want it to. Grass, let's just for the time being make this entire thing into grass. I'm going to call it landscape. And now the whole thing turns to grass. And how cool is that? Where it gets steep, it turns to stone a little bit. I like that. All right. The other thing we want to do is maybe on our green roof, let's make that grass as well. Call that landscape. Like that. And water. Let's see. Our water. These are pretty easy too. You just click here, and then we can click on nature under water and click on water. So just like that, we've got our water. Maybe we want to change our RGB, color density, make it a little bit darker. Maybe make it like a little bit murkier. I don't know. That's probably what a creek in the woods in Pennsylvania would look like. And then I'll click on here, and let's go to nature, waterfall, and click on waterfall. With that, you can go to its properties. What is it? Wave scale. If you kind of drop that, you can make it either faster, slower, and like less foam. Kind of makes it a little bit cleaner. Whatever you think. I'd probably match the RGB to look a little bit more like the water that we have coming down. The water below. Color density. All right. So that's that's close. Whatever. It looks good. Looks a little bit green, but that's all right. We'll kind of we'll edit that. Let's just make it right. So we'll just kind of come back to something a little bit bluer and darker. Okay. So you just got to mess with that, make it look the way you want it to. That's kind of cool for that waterfall. And then on this translucent glass, we're going to make that into our new pure glass. So that way we can make this like really nice, and we'll give it like a bunch of frostiness. Maybe we could go to RGB and kind of darken it up, make it kind of that gray frosty glass. That'll be kind of cool. So now we've got our green roofs, we've got our green roofs, our glass, our grass, our water. Everything's kind of fallen into place here. So okay, so we've worked on our materials, so we can click on this checkbox to save that. And our materials look good, but now our site is just a little bit unrealistic. So in Lumion, it's really easy to kind of craft your site and make that environment into something very realistic. So the first step of that, though, is going to be to set our site model as terrain in Lumion. So to do that, I'm going to go to my objects, and we're going to go to move mode, which allows us to kind of select things. And so here I could go up and turn off my building, and that way it makes it really easy to click once on my site and select it. What I really want to do, though, is with my context menu, click on that, go to extra, and choose mark as terrain. And I'll say on. All right, so now what that means is that this site, all of this is now marked as terrain, which allows me to go to my landscape tab, and on the paintbrush tool or the paint tool, I can now go in here and choose to maybe I want to paint with this a little bit. We can dial up our brush size should be smaller, our speed should be a little bit bigger, and then I can just kind of paint that ground on there, maybe a little bit higher on the brush speed. You could go in here, kind of start to craft that site. You can choose all these different textures like brown leaves. That'd probably be a good one for this site. Maybe even, let's see, like just soil would probably be good. Let's see, we'll paint with that. So you got to kind of, push and hold, and then that'll let you paint brown leaves. Like that. So you can really start to get kind of a much different look happening with your site. Even though this is a SketchUp model, it's kind of tricky to have to go in here and have to paint it in SketchUp and make all this stuff happen. Whereas in Lumion, if you just make it into a Lumion terrain, it makes it really easy to just kind of paint and make things kind of all just a little bit different. I'll just do that. And so you've got some grass happening and just a lot of these other materials. So you can always go in and change these guys as you see fit. Yeah, maybe sand. I don't know. Probably not sand. We'll go back to our brown leaves. And this one could be leaves. All right. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. At least a little bit different. Let me say, let's go back to our objects and turn on our proposed conditions again. So now you can see we've got everything kind of in place, but now we need to add some trees and some objects. So to do that, I'm going to go to my objects again under place mode, and we're going to go to our nature library. And if I click on this object here, I can grab from like small leaf, medium leaf. Each one of these tabs has several sub tabs. Let's see, I think large leaf maybe. Let's see, where is it? We've got like this post oak. That might be kind of cool for Pennsylvania. But I can just click to place them. If I hold control, I can place bunches of them. So I'm just going to kind of get up above this and kind of just place a bunch of trees over there. Go back to my tree selection, and let's see, we've got some maples here. So I'll just kind of click and add these maple trees. So really just kind of outlining my entire site, because I don't ever want to catch the horizon in any view. That's what really makes things look very computer generated. So just kind of littering my site with that. And maybe I go back and choose one more. We'll go with this maple here. And so what's kind of cool too is you could be a little bit more selective in the foreground, like where you're actually making like nice shots. Like really be a little bit more careful with your tree placement. But like that alone, that's starting to look pretty nice. I mean, things are really starting to kind of come together with the site, and actually, some sort of realistic environment. But I know that these trees are actually huge on that site, and it's rather covered. But you could always go in and adjust that stuff as you see fit. All right, so now another thing you could do is do a mass placement of objects. So we can go with like rocks, and let's see, I want to do like a mass placement. I'm going to choose all these different boulders here, and so here's my mass placement. I'm going to click once to start, go this way, and oh shoot, yeah, I want to delete these trees out of here, and then I'm going to add these other rocks. So I can choose like this rock, and maybe actually I kind of like these other stones better. So I'll just add those other stones in there, and we'll add this one in there. All right, so now we've got a little bit of a different thing going on. We can randomize our direction, like less amount of items, offset a little bit from the line, and then we'll say OK. And this way, you can kind of go in here and start to really, add in a bunch of these offset from line, and say OK. So it's pretty easy just to kind of drop a few of these boulder placements in there and kind of get something a little more realistic happening there too. So for this one, I'll just kind of drop it in there. Let's not do so much of an offset, and say OK. All right, so we're kind of getting things set up, using these different mass placement and hole control, and you can drop bundles of trees, and then maybe you want to go in and add some shrubs as well. So there's several different ways to really add the terrain and these objects rather quickly. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, so let's open up our final proposed. I showed you how to kind of go through that rather quickly. For this one now, though, I'm going to go over to my files, and we're going to load a scene and models, and I'm going to open up the finished one. So Brightman Designs, tutorials, and we've got our summer competition. Here's our falling water. So again, you guys have all of these files that I'm opening. These are on the tutorial page on our blog. So just grab that whole zip file to grab all of our files, and then you can play with these too. So this is our finished project. All right, so now as I scoot around here, you can see that like right now we have both of our models on. So we can always go in here and say like I want to turn off one of our buildings and see just that one. We've got like all of our terrain set up, and everything's looking pretty good. So really, this is the idea: is you just want to get your model all set up. You want to get everything textured and imported into Lumion, and get to this place, because now you can really start to think clearly about how do I want to be a director and present this design. So it can be difficult to come up with a compelling presentation if your model is not complete. So that would be one tip, is like maybe try to get your idea all worked out, and at least to a point where you can see that representation on the screen, and then that makes it much easier to go in and make that kind of compelling Hollywood movie of your project. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your camera views, add effects, and really make a cool presentation. For this one, we're going to do existing conditions versus proposed. Should be pretty slick, so we'll see you in the next tutorial.